After finishing his cultivation, Qin Mu slowly withdrew his stance and exhaled. Just then, his heart stirred with unease. He opened the courtyard door and saw Sword Hall Master approaching hurriedly. His expression grave, Qin Mu welcomed him inside and asked what had happened. Sword Hall Master spoke in a low, urgent voice. Heavenly King Lu had been gravely injured and was currently resting at his residence. His condition was extremely critical, and he wished to see Qin Mu at once. Shock struck Qin Mu. Without hesitation, he followed Sword Hall Master out of the courtyard and rushed over. Inside the room, Heavenly King Lu lay on the bed, struggling to rise. Seeing Qin Mu, he forced a weak smile and apologized for being unable to greet him properly due to his injuries. Qin Mu stepped forward to examine him, his brows tightening at once. Lu's clothes were torn and stained with blood. Even his white hair and beard smeared red. Yet the external wounds were only the beginning. His injuries were worse than those suffered by the Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor. He had clearly fought several experts of cult master level strength. The damage was not limited to his body. His divine treasures and even his soul had been shattered. All 7 of his great divine treasures had suffered catastrophic destruction. His spirit embryo was petrified. 3 of the 5 element gods were destroyed. Of the 6 directions divine treasure, only 2 pillars remained intact. His 7 stars, celestial being, and life and death divine treasures had been completely crushed. Even the lone bridge of his divine bridge realm had snapped. What made matters worse was his age. His body, no longer strong as before, could barely hold together a soul already on the brink of collapse. Drawing a painful breath, Heavenly King Lu began to speak, saying he had finally discovered Heavenly King Qian's whereabouts. Qin Mu stopped him gently and began treatment immediately. He poured dragon saliva over Lu's wounds and made him drink another bottle to restore vitality. At the same time, Qin Mu hurriedly wrote down herbs and ordered Sword Hall Master to retrieve them from storage. Though he himself was uncertain whether they could save Lu. At best, he might survive but become crippled. At worst, death was inevitable. Sword Hall Master rushed out to gather medicine. Though Lu's physical injuries improved slightly, his soul and divine treasures continued deteriorating. Between labored breaths, he explained what had happened. Heavenly King Qian was already dead. Someone had used Qian's clothing to lure him into a trap where powerful enemies ambushed him. Qin Mu demanded to know who they were. Lu said their faces were hidden, but he recognized their divine arts. Pain twisted his body as his soul injuries flared, yet he endured it through gritted teeth. He revealed the attackers wanted the sacred cult's teleportation art. His strength was gone now, and he felt ashamed for failing the patriarch's expectations. Qin Mu's voice turned cold and resolute. He swore Lu would neither die nor be crippled. And even if he died, Qin Mu would drag his soul back from Yudu. Regaining clarity for a moment, Heavenly King Lu revealed a crucial clue. One of his attackers was a top-ranking imperial official. The technique used was Spirit Treasure Unmovable Meditation Technique. Among such officials, only Sun Nantuo, the Crown Prince's Grand Preceptor, had mastered it to perfection, making his spirit treasure immovable atop the 1,000-banner pagoda. Immediately, Qin Mu's fingers moved in blinding speed across Lu's body, sealing his soul within his flesh to prevent it from dispersing. He employed Heavenly Devil Creation Technique, a method normally used for gruesome purposes, but in his hands it became a desperate life-saving measure. Still, he could not halt the inevitable. Even with Lu's 3 souls and 7 spirits sealed, the soul continued to crumble. Understanding his fate, Heavenly King Lu gently smiled. Even a divine physician could not save someone destined to die. He rose shakily from the bed and sat on the ground, his face strangely flushed as his life force burned out. He regretted only that he would never see the sacred cult flourish under Qin Mu's leadership. Cracking sounds echoed from his body as the divine bridge collapsed. One divine treasure after another shattered in sequence. Qin Mu's heart sank. Even if Sword Hall Master returned with medicine, nothing could change the outcome now. Flames erupted from Lu's body as his soul shredded beyond repair. With his soul destroyed, he would not even be able to enter Yudu or become a ghost. Amid the fire, Lu murmured calmly about life's impermanence. He longed to return once more to Saint Arrival Mountain, to see the sacred teacher tree, almost hearing the woodcutter chopping its wood. Trembling in the flames, he smiled faintly and confessed he felt very cold. Qin Mu reached out to grasp his hand, but caught only drifting ashes. The flames faded, leaving nothing but gray-white remains. At that moment, Sword Hall Master burst in carrying bundles of herbs. Qin Mu turned slowly and told him there was no need anymore. Heavenly King Lu had already passed. The medicine slipped from Sword Hall Master's hands. The towering man knelt heavily, bowing deeply, his shoulders shaking though no sob escaped. Later, Qin Mu carefully gathered Lu's ashes into a green jar and stood silently before it. Lost in thought, he had once been dragged into the heavenly devil cult against his will. Sold into it by Granny C and unexpectedly becoming its leader. At first, he felt little connection to the cult beyond his affection for Granny C and the young patriarch. But over time, as he understood its people and principles, he grew to respect and love them, striving to become a worthy cult master. Though he had not spent much time with Heavenly King Lu, the elder treated him like a mischievous junior, always cleaning up his troubles and watching over him fondly. Now that elder was gone, reduced to ashes, a cold sharpness appeared in Qin Mu's eyes. He ordered Sword Hall Master to mobilize all disciples and gather every piece of information on Sun Nantuo, his life, family, sect, disciples, everything. Sword Hall Master accepted the command. Qin Mu then instructed that Heavenly King Lu be returned to Saint Arrival Mountain and buried beside the sacred teacher tree, as he had wished. Afterward, Qin Mu went to the floor of Heavenly Record, searching through the archives until he found the Spirit Treasure Unmovable Meditation Technique. For 2 days and nights, he studied without rest. The following day, Sword Hall Master delivered a thick dossier on Sun Nantuo. Qin Mu examined every detail carefully, spending half a day reading. When he finally closed the file and opened his eyes again, his decision was made. Eliminating Sun Nantuo within the capital would cause too much upheaval. Therefore, the execution would take place outside the city. Qin Mu calmly issued his orders to the Sword Hall, instructing them to summon the 12 protector elders and the 8 supervisors of the sacred cult to gather beside the Mud River outside the capital. After closing the dossier in his hands, he passed his research notes on the Spirit Treasure Unmovable Meditation Technique to the Sword Hall Master. These notes recorded the weaknesses he had painstakingly uncovered. He ordered that the Hall Masters remain where they were and await further instructions before taking any action. Having received the orders, the Sword Hall Master immediately departed. Qin Mu then summoned Hu Linger and the Dragon Qilin, telling them to remain safely within the Imperial College for the next few days. Afterward, he headed toward the scholar's residence and located Wei Yang at the end of an alley. "Brother Wei," Qin Mu asked, "has Duke Wei returned?" Wei Yang replied that his father had just come back a few days earlier after suppressing a rebellion. Qin Mu smiled faintly and requested, "Please inform Duke Wei that something interesting will soon happen at Nantuo Monastery." Wei Yang looked puzzled but agreed, though he warned that his father would not attend unless the situation was truly significant. Duke Wei was famous for his booming voice and sharp tongue. Anything he commented on quickly became known throughout the capital. Curious, Wei Yang asked what the event was about, but Qin Mu only answered mysteriously, "He will understand when he arrives." Though confused, Wei Yang followed Qin Mu down the mountain before they parted ways. Qin Mu then proceeded alone to the rain listening pavilion in Flower Alley. Fu Qingyun hurried to greet him, addressing him as Cult Master. But Qin Mu gestured for silence. Suddenly, cracking sounds echoed from his body as his bones shifted and his physique transformed. He grew taller and leaner, taking on the rugged appearance of a barbarian from beyond the Great Wall. Fu Qingyun was startled, immediately recognizing the transformation as a high-level creation technique, though she could not determine from which of the 7 writings it originated. A faint golden radiance surrounded Qin Mu as his clothes transformed into coarse robes suitable for a frontier warrior. He then retrieved the 1,000 Banners pagoda from his Teodi sack. The pagoda, about 3 yards tall, rotated with metallic clanks while faint Buddhist chanting emanated from within. He instructed Fu Qingyun to remain where she was and wait for further orders. Dragging the pagoda behind him, Qin Mu left Flower Alley and made his way to the Nantuo Side Palace. This palace served as the residence of the Crown Prince's Grand Preceptor and also functioned as the main preaching ground of Nantuo Monastery, one of the most influential Buddhist sects beneath Great Thunderclap Monastery. Its leader, Sun Nantuo, was known for his deep Buddhist cultivation and upright character. After submitting to imperial authority and becoming the Crown Prince's Grand Preceptor, He had effectively brought many Buddhist sects under imperial influence. Despite Sun Nantuo's personal integrity, the monastery's reputation was complicated. Noble women often visited the palace for religious lectures. Yet many sought companionship rather than enlightenment, forming secret relationships with young monks. Some older women even kept monks as companions, while certain monks maintained questionable relationships with women serving within the monastery. Such scandals were common knowledge in the capital, but Sun Nantuo, burdened with official duties, largely ignored these matters. Furthermore, social customs in the capital were liberal, and even the palace itself was not free from scandal, making it difficult for him to enforce stricter discipline. Though he tolerated such behavior, Sun Nantuo remained fiercely opposed to evil practices and openly criticized officials associated with demonic paths in court. On this particular day, sudden commotion erupted outside Nantuo's side palace. Monks and disciples rushed out upon hearing shouts that someone was selling an important lost Buddhist treasure, the Thousand Banners Pagoda. Once the complementary artifact to Nantuo Monastery's spirit treasure unmovable meditation technique. Crowds soon gathered, blocking the street. Among them were monks and curious noblewomen alike. Before them stood a magnificent pagoda constructed from 1,000 jade banners, each divided into 7 levels inscribed with scriptures. Rotating cylinders glowed with sacred light while Buddhist chants resonated through the air. Within each banner rested precious relics such as colored glaze, jade ornaments, sarira, lamps, topaz, and agate. It was unmistakably the lost legacy treasure of Nantuo Monastery. The monks burned with envy and desire to reclaim it but dared not seize it openly within the capital. The seller was a tall, foreign-looking youth, Qin Mu in disguise. When he activated the pagoda, the banners expanded from mere inches into massive structures, causing the entire pagoda to tower nearly 200 yards high. As it spun, scriptures shone brilliantly and powerful Buddhist chants filled the sky, creating a breathtaking spectacle. In a loud voice, the disguised Qin Mu declared himself Ponggong So, a shaman from Roland's golden palace beyond the Great Wall. He claimed the pagoda was handed down through his family after an ancestor rescued an old monk. Now, wishing to meet the heroes of the empire, he sought a worthy person to inherit the treasure. Among the monks, Yuan Jing, a direct disciple of Sun Nantuo, immediately recognized the pagoda as their monastery's lost treasure. However, another disciple, Yuan Feng, his rival, also eyed the opportunity to gain favor by reclaiming it. Their long-standing rivalry simmered beneath polite appearances. Qin Mu then announced his condition. Anyone of the same cultivation realm who could defeat him would receive the pagoda. Meanwhile, Duke Wei and Wei Yang arrived. Duke Wei loudly dismissed the situation as mere trouble stirred by a barbarian. But his booming voice attracted attention from nobles living nearby, swelling the audience even further. With the crowd watching, the monks could not simply snatch the treasure. A yellow-robed monk confirmed the challenge terms, only to be interrupted when Yuan Jing stepped forward to claim the chance himself. He introduced himself as a 5 elements realm cultivator. Qin Mu replied solemnly, "Roland's Golden Palace, Ponggong So, 5 elements realm." Yuan Jing unleashed the spirit treasure unmovable meditation technique. A massive Buddha apparition with 1,000 arms appeared behind him, each holding different sacred treasures. Merging with him, it strengthened his body into a nearly indestructible arhat form. He attacked with a dazzling colored glaze mudra, filling the area with sacred light and Buddhist chanting. Yet Qin Mu did not move. He simply raised his palm and struck downward. With a thunderous boom, the Buddha apparition, mudra, and sacred boundary shattered instantly. A massive crater formed, and Yuan Jing was crushed into a bloody mass within it. Shock swept across the crowd. Duke Wei stroked his mustache suspiciously, remarking that although the barbarian's attack looked crude, his cultivation was frighteningly powerful. When Wei Yang reminded him the man's name was Ponggong So, Duke Wei frowned and muttered that something felt wrong. The technique used did not resemble the arts of Roland's Golden Palace at all. Duke Wei frowned slightly as he watched the battle unfold. Could it be that this Ponggong So has modified the Grand Shaman Ruda scriptures? He muttered in confusion. He had previously fought experts from Roland's Golden Palace and knew their techniques well. Those practitioners relied heavily on soul cultivation. Even if their physical bodies were refined to a golden state, their true offensive power lay in soul-based attacks. But the young barbarian before them was different. This man walked the path of pure corporeal cultivation. His technique resembled the grand shaman Ruda scriptures. Yet it was also distinctly different, far fiercer and more brutal. As a top-ranking official and a figure at cult master level, Duke Wei immediately recognized Qin Emu's extraordinary qualities. However, even with his experience, he could only sense similarities and differences. He could not possibly realize that Qin Mu was actually using the heavenly god creation technique. Among the 7 writings of creation from the great educational heavenly devil scriptures, each had unique properties. The heavenly god creation technique allowed one to imitate other cultivation methods. Granny C had once used it to perfectly impersonate the border dragon city lord Fu Yundi, fooling everyone. Meanwhile, Qin Mu had already killed monk Yuan Jing with a single palm strike. The surrounding monks burned with indignation. One monk stepped forward angrily. "You stole the legacy treasure of our Nantuo monastery and killed our brother. Do you think no one here can defeat you? I, Yuan Shan, will fight you." Before he could finish speaking, Qin Mu casually stretched out his hand. Thunder crackled through the air. Yuan Shan suddenly collapsed onto the ground. His body showed no wounds. His heart still beat. He was still breathing. Several monks rushed forward to check him, only to find him unconscious. "There's no need to check," Qin Mu said calmly. "His soul has already been shattered by me." The monks erupted in anger. "Wasn't this supposed to be a contest of strength? Why are you killing everyone?" Qin Mu replied coldly. "Beyond the Great Wall, once a fight begins, life and death are no longer discussed. I thought people of eternal peace were brave. I never imagined you had grown so soft. Afraid of death. It seems none of you are worthy. I should return the 1,000 Banners Pagoda to Roland's Golden Palace." A monk roared in anger and swung his staff, which was hung with 9 metal rings and treasures that produced soul-shaking sounds. Qin Mu did not dodge. He allowed the staff to strike his head, then grabbed it and yanked it forward. The monk's hands were torn bloody from the force. In the next instant, Qin Mu hurled the staff back. It pierced through the monk's chest and nailed him to the ground. Duke Wei shook his head. The monks of Nantuo Monastery have grown too comfortable. Living like nobles has dulled them. Against someone like him in the same realm, they stand no chance. He still could not understand Qin Emu's technique. Though soul-destroying spells existed in Roland's Golden Palace, Qin Emu's methods were unfamiliar. Did the Grand Shaman invent some new divine art? Duke Wei wondered. Nearby, Wei Yong searched anxiously for Qin Mu, wondering where he was hiding after inviting him to witness something interesting. Soon, several senior monks appeared and quickly ordered others to report the incident to the Supreme Court and summon help from the Crown Prince's side palace. Their plan was simple. Let the authorities arrest Qin Mu and reclaim the pagoda legally. Before long, news reached Crown Prince side palace. Sun Nantuo, seated like a giant Buddha, opened his eyes upon hearing the report. The Crown Prince beside him smiled lightly, wondering if the heavenly devil cult had come seeking revenge. But the messenger monk clarified. The attacker was Ponggong So of Roland's Golden Palace, carrying their long-lost legacy treasure. He offered it to anyone who could defeat him in the same realm. Yet all challengers had died. Sun Nantuo scolded his disciples for their decadence but acknowledged that recovering the pagoda was essential. The Crown Prince, however, suspected a trap. The heavenly devil cult had recently appointed a new cult master. Yet little was known about him. Sun Nantuo calmly revealed that the new cult master was Qin Mu, an imperial academician recently promoted by the emperor. Shocked, the Crown Prince decided to personally witness the situation. Soon, Supreme Court officials also arrived. But Duke Wei loudly declared that martial world conflicts should remain outside official interference. If the court intervened in every martial dispute, chaos would follow. Sun Nantuo and the Crown Prince eventually joined the gathering crowd. Meanwhile, Qin Mu continued killing challengers, enraging the monastery. Yet senior monks restrained their disciples to avoid public disgrace. Many high-ranking officials gathered, some quietly enjoying Nantuo Monastery's embarrassment due to past scandals involving their monks. Seeing they could not win fairly, the monks devised a scheme. They would send a fighter who had sealed his cultivation realm, then secretly unseal it mid-battle to kill Qin Mu. Monk Yuan Kong accepted the task, but before he could even release his sealed power, Qin Emu's punch shattered every bone in his body, killing him instantly. Duke Wei applauded loudly, praising the might of the grand shaman Ruda scriptures. Sun Nantuo, however, doubted whether this technique truly belonged to Roland's golden palace. Another monk then attacked, immediately unleashing his divine arts and displaying extraordinary cultivation. His dazzling mudras and Buddha aura drew admiration from onlookers. But suddenly Qin Mu transformed into a divine being with a bull's head, human body, and golden radiance, stepping upon twin dragons. A fiery beam shot from the eye on his forehead, slicing off the monk's head. The severed head flew into the arms of an admiring noblewoman, causing her to faint in terror. Then, in an oddly casual gesture, Qin Mu slapped his own buttocks twice with his tail, turning them red. The crown prince blinked in confusion. The technique should indeed be the grand shaman Ruda scriptures, but why would he slap his own butt? Is this some strange shamanic ritual? Duke Wei was slightly taken aback when he saw Qin Mu revert to his normal appearance. Glancing toward the imperial preceptor's residence, he muttered inwardly that the usually cold and aloof preceptor seemed to have cultivated a similar technique before. He vaguely remembered seeing such a transformation once. Yet what puzzled him even more was the preceptor's absence from such a major commotion. Duke Wei even jokingly wondered whether the old man had been overwhelmed by the palace maids recently bestowed upon him by the emperor. Meanwhile, Sun Nantuo was struggling with another question. Was Ponggong So truly a disciple of Roland's Golden Palace? Beyond the Great Wall, Roland's Golden Palace was regarded as the greatest sacred ground, its practitioners calling themselves shamans and cultivating strange, often sinister arts involving souls and bodily transformation. Their techniques reshaped practitioners into beings neither fully human nor demonic. Yet what Qin Mu had displayed was not merely some demonic technique, it was a god transformation. Even among cultivators of the five elements realm, very few managed to achieve such a state. The Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor himself often complained that Imperial College lacked profound teachings. But the truth was simpler. There were barely any instructors capable of cultivating or teaching such transformations. What shocked observers even more was that Qin Mu's transformation seemed complete, his physical body, vital qi, spirit, and soul all transformed simultaneously, radiating an aura akin to that of a god. Earlier, when he took on a flame god form, a divine eye had appeared on his forehead, releasing a stream of fire that cleanly severed monk Yuan Yu's head. Such power came from a transformation on every level of his being. Something ordinary cultivators simply could not replicate, since even the imperial preceptor himself had difficulty comprehending the full nature of Qin Mu's technique. It was no surprise that Sun Nantuo and the others misunderstood it as some demonic art of Roland's Golden Palace and marveled at the strange power of the grand shaman Ruda scriptures. Duke Wei then taunted Sun Nantuo, pointing out that so many of his disciples had been killed and suggesting he personally defeat Qin Mu to restore his monastery's honor. But Sun Nantuo ignored the provocation. He knew Duke Wei's tongue was sharp and manipulative. More importantly, he lacked confidence in winning a fair fight within the same cultivation realm. Even his perfected spirit treasure unmovable meditation technique might not be enough. And revealing his higher-level cultivation would only bring embarrassment. Instead, Sun Nantuo focused on another concern, the guardian behind Qin Mu. According to tradition, anyone who publicly challenged a sect or blocked its gate was always protected by a powerful guardian to prevent assassination. If Qin Mu dared to act so boldly, then surely an expert from Roland's Golden Palace was lurking nearby. Finding and defeating that guardian would restore his monastery's reputation. Sun Nantuo approached Qin Mu, raising anticipation among the watching monks. Yet Qin Mu calmly declared he was not there to provoke the monastery but to sell the 1,000 Banners Pagoda, a treasure long claimed by Nantuo Monastery. Anyone strong enough could challenge him and take it. But he was simply seeking a destined buyer. The Eternal Peace Crown Prince then stepped forward, asking the price. Qin Mu named his conditions calmly: 100 flying ships equipped with apothecaries and assistants, plus 200 cloud chariots. These were military weapons vital to the empire. Selling them would be treason, something even the crown prince could not risk. Realizing he was being toyed with, the prince grew furious, but Qin Mu remained indifferent, announcing he would wait 3 days for challengers before returning beyond the Great Wall. As night fell, the crowd dispersed. Duke Wei later visited the imperial preceptor's residence, only to learn the shocking news that the preceptor had suddenly married one of the palace maids gifted by the emperor and left the capital with his new wife. Duke Wei was stunned, unable to believe the emotionless man had married without even informing him. Later, Duke Wei and Wei Yang wandered through the bustling night market. As they passed Nantuo Side Palace, they discovered Qin Mu was gone. Monks reported that he had slipped away under cover of the crowd. And Sun Nantuo quickly led pursuit outside the city, planning to deal with him secretly beyond the capital's watchful eyes. Curious, Duke Wei followed. The pursuit led them through another lively night market outside the city, eventually arriving at a village marked by a wooden gate bearing the words, "Teachings of Sacred Teacher." Duke Wei immediately recognized the phrase. It was associated with the heavenly devil cult. Before he could warn anyone, chaos erupted. Ordinary peddlers, scholars, and passers-by suddenly turned into assassins, slaughtering the monks of Nantuo Monastery in an instant. Heads flew, blood sprayed, and within moments Sun Nantuo stood alone amid the corpses. He summoned a towering 1,000-armed Buddha form, but 20 elders appeared and shattered it in a single strike. Just as quickly, the assassins vanished, and the marketplace resumed normal activity, bodies being cleared away as if nothing had happened. Terrified, Duke Wei urged retreat, unwilling to see the true master behind this devilish cult. But at that moment, Wei Yang suddenly waved toward the village and called out cheerfully, "Brother Qin, why are you here?"